Welcome to the Success Blueprint with Greider and Peterson. We are so glad you guys are here with us again. We're excited to go over a couple things today of kind of what we've learned, so maybe some stories, maybe even personal stories or real estate stories that we've had that have kind of changed what we've thought about real estate over the last few years. Well, you've been in real estate for how long? 20?
Yeah.
Wow.
Over 2 decades.
And I've been about 12, 13 years. So yeah, we definitely have some experience and seen some great things and also some things that maybe aren't so great. And so mistakes that we've made, but it's just helped us learn in the process and be better at what we're doing now. So first, I guess what comes to mind as far as, is there something that comes to mind to you as a story or that kind of changed your perspective on real estate or where you learned something?
Actually, yes. I'm a firm believer that real estate and being a real estate professional, realtor is, I still think it's the best opportunity that there is in the world. I do believe that. That being said, there are some of the things that I've learned is just that it's harder for some people to get than others. Not concepts or not that, not everybody can get a grasp on it, but just sometimes people's weak points come in and they be their strong points, just like what we've heard on Adam on the past episode. An introvert, and he learned that, just being quiet and humble and asking questions and bridging that gap. But then, I've seen a lot of people and I'm like, man, you'd be incredible. And I realize that it really isn't for everybody. And the more that I'm like, man, what is wrong with this guy or this gal or this situation? Like, why can't we make it work?
Yeah.
Where's the spark in this? And so for whatever reason, and I know that a lot of it's industry based, a lot of it's different. In 2 decades, I forget, I've learned it's pretty much a whole nother language, when you join an industry. There's so much to uncover. And so when somebody switches from one occupation over to this, that the learning curves and sometimes people's insecurities that maybe you don't see kind of break that down, that they don't learn as fast, or maybe they're just incapable of pushing themselves to the next level.
Yeah.
And that's what I think the last year and a half I've looked at, and I've been kind of in awe, of those who can make it and those who don't.
Well, and I think some people don't. I think it comes down to a little bit of some people just don't want to have to be self-motivated and do things and do that day to day and day in and day out. I think of someone who was on our team right when we partnered up. Awesome guy, very likable, could have crushed it in real estate if he wanted to, but he didn't. He would much, in a conversation that we had, he says, my favorite job, and he named a job that he had years and years ago when he was younger.
Simple.
It's just a simple job at a fast food chain. And he's like, that honestly was the most fun job that I ever had. And I was like, okay. And I asked him why, and he said, well, it was because I just got in and I knew just what needed to be done, and I did it, and I went home and I didn't think about it again. And so that for him is what made him happy, is to be able to go in, get it done, not think about it again, and move on. And so if you're that type of person, real estate's probably not the best. I mean, there might be aspects of real estate that you could do really well at, but being an agent may not be the thing for you.
So if you like being comfortable, being a real estate agent may not be the best for you. And I used to get frustrated or annoyed or look at that, but you're 100% right. Like sometimes that's the comfort zone, and to break out of that comfort zone, it's going to take.
Well, and I look at him now, he did get a great job, and where it's more of just come in, do your thing, and leave, and doesn't have to think about it again. Right. And he's so much happier than he was when he was with us.
Right.
And so I think it's just different. I think so many times we try to stick that round peg in the square hole, right? And it doesn't always work.
Right.
So, but yeah, that's really good. Just that motivate is just hard to know though.
Right.
When people many people will come and say, hey, I want to do real estate. I want to join the team or that. And It's just, there's no set necessarily interview that you can do that says, oh yeah, this guy's going to make it, this girl's going to make it, this person's not going to make it. There's really not. You really just have to get into it and see if it's something that you have deep down and you want to do, or it's not. Sometimes people just don't want to do that.
Sure.
And that's not what's going to make them happy. And so that's what, and there's two things. I worked for a company called Synthes that was, they sold place and screws for bone fixation. I worked for them for a long time. And one of our competitors in that industry, which they're a much, much bigger company than we were, but in this little niche that we had, they did pretty well. Synthes did really well, did much better. And so this other company, Stryker, they're really good. They're a big company. They do really well. When I was in that industry, it was kind of funny because a lot of those companies that they actually did the personality profiles that have gotten pretty popular. Well, they've been very popular for a long time, for 20 years or so. But they had found, they basically went to their top 10% and did the personality test and said, okay, we're just going to see what these guys all are. And for the most part, that top 10% were very specific on who did well and who didn't. And so before they even interviewed you, they would give you this personality test. And if you didn't score the same things or the same type of personality as this top 10%, they wouldn't even give you an interview. Right. And so
they're interviewing the masses, or they're pulling a ton of those in. And so then they kind of just
exactly.
took the tip of what they knew worked.
This is what's going to happen. And so people would always say, and when I worked for that company as well, ours wasn't quite like that. They definitely went out of that box a little bit more than this competitor of ours. But it was interesting because I'd go to, you'd have to go to shows or things like that where you're in a big convention hall and you're just sitting at a booth, which is terrible. It's miserable all day long. But surgeons or whatever would come up and they'd say, you'd see me even outside the booth and say, hey, are you Synthes? And be like, yeah. And they're like, oh yeah, all you guys are the same. It's like, wait a second. But that's the beauty of real estate, is they're not. You could go to the top 10% and they are opposites. It is crazy. We've talked about this a little bit too. And
all different.
That was kind of the aha to me in real estate, is like, one, you don't have to do it the same way, but two, you don't have to be the same person. The nice thing about it is you don't have to try to be just that cubbyhole or what that company wants you to be.
Right.
Just be yourself.
And work and take action.
Be yourself. Yeah, be yourself, have integrity and be honest and take action, and you can be successful in real estate.
Right.
And so it was kind of that aha moment. I was like, I did this for a little bit and I was like, oh man, everyone's different. I was look at people and you don't mean to, but sometimes you kind of prejudge people. Then you find out how many transactions or how much they're doing. And you're like, oh, wow, they're crushing it and they're crushing it. And this person who I thought isn't.
Right.
Just because their social media presence was great, but they're really not selling any homes or very few homes. And so it's kind of interesting when you get in the industry and you see it and you see who is making waves and who is actually moving the bar and who isn't.
And it would be fun. I don't know how you would ever do it, but it'd be fun to break down, like kind of maybe how the millionaire real estate agent is. Yeah. If you go into our market and you break down all the people that are doing and their life and what happened and what skills they had and what they learned and then whatever until they got into real estate.
Yeah.
Because there's so many different, and I look at that and I'm like, why can't these guys do this? And then I'm like, and then I've lately been like, oh, I have a background in telemarketing.
Yeah,
and so
exactly.
I can talk to, a deaf person and tell. And so anyway, I can or there's, you have a background in sales of talking to some serious professional people.
Yeah.
And so then that translates. And so I'm like, okay, we only got to find salespeople. You got to be the top car salesman. But then we've brought in that was just an admin for a construction company.
Yep.
Crushed it on our team. One of our favorite agents.
Yeah.
We brought in a stay-at-home mom. Kids got a little older, got cabin fever. Crushed it as a real estate agent.
True. Yeah.
And so it's like, what do you like? You take that profile and you're like, this person would never make it. This person would never make it. And then those ones do. And then I'm like, man, you you're pretty awesome. You were a high school athlete, 2 state championships. Man, what a hard work ethic. And oh wow, this job must have been awesome. And serve for your church, come in and like it's just the weirdest, the weirdest thing. And it'd be fun to just know everything about everybody to see what made them great.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it of course comes down to the same things we learn every week on this, right? I mean, talking to all these great people that have been so successful in that every week, you learn, I mean, there's some consistency. Consistency is huge. The ones that are willing to do the day-to-day stuff is huge. The, like doing the boring, right? And so we know there's certain aspects of it that are what's make them successful.
Right.
But in real estate, there's no way to tell beforehand if they're going to do it or not. There just really isn't.
Right.
And so that's what just in the last few years, realized that more and more.
And that's why in coaching, is they tell us 90 days, how they perform in 90 days, 30, 60, 90. And if they're going to wobble or they're not going to be consistent in that first 30 days, I don't think they're going to get consistent in the next 60. And I don't think
very unlikely
you're going to get, and so.
Yeah. And I think sometimes, we tend to, everyone that's been on the team we've really liked. I think the people who aren't on the team anymore and just the people who still are. And I think for the most part, everybody we've really liked and just wanted to be successful. And so it's hard sometimes to realize that, well, to be successful maybe isn't this route, right? Maybe it is something else. Maybe it is a job somewhere else or things like that. And a job versus trying to be an entrepreneur in that. And so I think sometimes I got to realize that a little bit earlier. I think sometimes I think, okay, we just got to do everything we can to try to make them successful here. But if they're not doing those things, then it's probably not ever going to happen.
Right.
And so
you can feed them with leads, referrals, everything.
Yeah.
But if it's just not in their wheelhouse, they'll reflect that like a shield.
The sales background definitely helps. I think one of the biggest ahas I had is I was showing some homes. I was brand new in the industry, and I kind of thought, okay, I've got this. I know this. Real estate was never even a thought to me, right? And then when I started it to try to stay home and not travel as much, I'm going around, I'm showing these people these homes, and after 1 or 2 homes, you kind of get a sense for what people like and what people don't like for the most part. And I thought, okay, I got this. And we go in this home, and I'm thinking in my head, I'm glad I didn't say anything, because I'm thinking in my head, this place is terrible. It had a little smell to it.
Yep.
It wasn't really clean. It didn't. And I thought, okay, I walked in behind these guys. I'm not seeing their faces because I'm behind them, right? I open the door, they go in, I'm not seeing their faces. And I'm literally about to say, let's just move on because this place is terrible. And they turned around and were like, oh my gosh, we love this place. Yeah. And I just sat there and I thought, okay, I have no clue. And it's not a sales job where you're trying to get them to buy one thing. It's a sales job where you're just letting them, you're just wanting the best for them.
So you go on a listing appointment, and I've lost listing appointments of where they felt like, we just didn't feel like you really liked our house, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to explain to them of the price and what other homes have and don't have, right?
Yep.
On the flip side of that, and I'll do you one worse of what you said, is I've gone through homes with folks, and they're like, going through it, and I'm like, man, huge hole in the wall, or man, this stinks, or man, this basement is freaking wonky, And they're like, what do you think? I'm like, I think this home's terrible.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, okay. And we go look at a few more homes and call them back, and they bought a house with somebody.
The house you said was wonky.
The house I said was wonky. And I'm like, and they're like, we just didn't think that you liked it. We really liked it. And we could tell that you weren't
Why wouldn't you represent us if you don't like it?
And so we have an agent on our team now that was showing homes and walked through, and these people were really excited. And he's like, man, it's just, they really ran it down, and it's just not worth it. Yeah. And so they're like, well, they really want to buy that house. And so they just went straight to the for sale, and anyway, it's just an interesting thing. Like, you're just there to help people make their best decision.
Yeah.
not our best decision, you know? And so it's like, all right, Jason, if this was your daughter, would you sell it to her? I'm like, well, do you like it? Like, what concerns you about it? Let's get a home inspection.
Yeah,
like,
how many times do people ask you that, right? Would
boxes
you buy this
check,
house?
yeah. If we can check all the boxes, then it's up to you if you want to buy it or not. I'm not going to live here. You know, like, I don't want to live that far away, or I don't want to live that close to town, or, you know, it's just an interesting thing.
It is, and everyone's so different, right? And how many times have we cubby hold somebody because they say that they know what they want, and then they end up buying something completely different.
Right.
There was a guy a buyer that I had that I was helping, and great guy. He moved here from out of state to work at the INL, and everything was good. And he said, I'm just going to live in my trailer until he had a trailer that he had parked at a campground, and that's where he was going to live until he found a place. I was like, okay, that's great, you know? And so I'm thinking he's probably pretty motivated. Apparently he wasn't. It took him a year and a half to buy a house. And so he was perfectly fine in that trailer by himself. You know, he was like, this is good. I'm fine. I'm comfortable. And he says, I just want to find the right one. And we were looking and looking, and he said he didn't want a big yard because he didn't necessarily love yard work. He didn't want this. And so we were looking basically in town. And when I was talking to him one day, he said, hey, one came across that I just kind of wanted to go look at. And it was opposite of what he said. It was probably double the size. It was definitely higher priced. It was $200,000 or $300,000 more than what we had been looking at. And it was on, I think, 2.5 acres. And I said, wow, this is very different, you know, than what you said. He says, yeah, but this one just kind of gets me excited. Where the others, there were things that checked the boxes, but I was never excited.
Or maybe they're all the same.
And I was like, great, let's go look. And he went and he bought that house immediately. And so it's just really easy to just kind of assume what people want and assume what they're going to want and what they're looking for, but you can't. You really just have to truly get to know your clients, see what they really want and what their goals are, so that you can try to help them the best way you can.
Right.
Obviously there's no judgment. This is just, hey, here's the best information that we have on this property or on this or whatever it is. Now you have the information. How does that affect your decision making? And so I think it's changed my mind a little bit. Just those interactions have changed my mind a little bit of how I treat clients. Because sometimes it's like, I felt like, well, I'm the agent, I know best at first when I started. And now I'm like, I don't know best, you know best. I'm just trying to get you your best.
Yeah. You know what you want.
Yeah, exactly.
And I just want to help you get that.
Exactly. Yep. So you're just trying to help facilitate them hit that goal, you know, even if they don't label it as a goal, but their goal is to get into the house they want, right? For the price that they can afford.
So you talk about that, and you talk about the house and the price that they can afford. Another topic that comes to my mind is the market.
Yeah.
And so I've been doing this for 2 decades. You know, I've seen it change, and I've seen it grow, and I've seen it increase as far as prices go.
Yep.
And there's a lot of homes that'd be like, man, I can't believe those guys bought that, and I don't know if it's worth that. And then 3 years later, it's worth $75,000 more, you know? Or I'm like, man, who wants to buy in this market? And people are buying, and 3 years later, you know what I mean? People are making money and having equity. And so I've learned that just with care and experience and intelligence and looking at it and comparing and getting the right deal, I mean, you can still get good deals out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that comes to mind. We had an admin on our team once that she made the mistake of looking back and checking to the pricing on the first home that she ever bought, and she sold it years ago.
Right.
And she was looking at what it's worth now, and she would have almost tripled her money. She would have just held on to it for those 10 years or 8 years, whatever it was. And so, yeah, it's pretty interesting. But I think, knowing the market, obviously we can help with that. But I think just my perspective on it has changed as, you know, how can we truly help these people, whether they're agents on our team,
right,
or whether it's a client that's looking to buy or sell or invest or whatever that is. It's just, knowing them and getting down to what they want is obviously the most important thing, because everyone is so different. Even investors, yes, they want a return, but even investors, their rules that they live by, their investment rules and things are very, very different. And so we just got to get to know what they want, what they need, and help them get there. Help them find those properties or sell those properties or whatever it is.
And I like that, when you talk about agents and different things that way, I mean, there's a lot of great agents out there, right? Like, we're not the only good real estate team.
Yeah.
We're the only ones you guys should use, but we're not the only good real estate agents out there. And however, the entry to get in, it sometimes makes it tough to find a good one.
True.
And I think that's one thing that I would encourage. We don't have to dive into stories on that. Is just make sure that you're like really checking out who you're working with, and not that new is bad and not that old is good, but do just some references and what's going on and why. And don't buy it just because your friend used them to buy a home and they're happy now that they can have barbecues and but what makes them good? And in our market, we've seen people outside, like we've gone through in 2 decades, there's so many different markets, buyers and seller markets. There's a couple of crashes. There's a couple of, spikes in the market. There's all these things that have happened. And I think it's good to talk to somebody who knows those things, because they can kind of give you a little bit of what happens.
It's true. Well, there's so many agents. I mean, there's a lot of good agents that, hey, they probably made a mistake once in a while. But there's a lot of other agents that probably had a few transactions that were pretty good, that are terrible agents, but they had some that went through pretty easily, right? And so, I think that checking the references and that, and there's a lot of, it's interesting because there's a lot of things you learn in the industry, and a lot of times you have situations that you're in that are kind of funny.
And the gaps are huge between agents as far as knowledge goes.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And never think you know everything, right? So, I mean, obviously the mistakes we made, something, I don't know why this story is popping in my head, but so I went to meet these people at this house. I was going to show them. I talked to the agent. They're like, hey, we don't have signs in the yard or anything yet. We don't have a lockbox. So knock on or try the front door. If it's open, great. If it's not, you'll have to walk around in the back. It's vacant. You could go check it out. It's like, great. So the address it was a brand new area, brand new home. They had just built the home. The builder had just kind of a one-off. It wasn't a builder that builds a lot of specs. And so I go, and they sent me a pin, right? Sent me a Google pin. So I go to the pin, and I go, and I'm there a little bit before the buyers, and I go do what he says to do. Go knock on the door, and the front door's, nobody's there, obviously. The front door is locked. And so I'm like, oh, he said another door will be open. So I go around back, and the slider's open. I'm like, okay, cool. So I get in, I shut the slider, and I take 2 steps in, and I'm in their kitchen. And I realize this home's lived in. This is not the right house. So I'm like, I'm in somebody's house right now that I shouldn't be in. I'm like, hello? And that fear of like, oh, dang, I'm entering into someone's house. And the home ended up being the one right behind it instead of that one. And so I'm like yelling, like, is anybody home? Is anybody home? Nobody's home. So I go out the front door, lock it behind me, and I go show the other house. And then as I'm leaving, I have to go by the house. And as I'm going by the house, the people had just pulled in who owned the house. And my first thought is, I don't know if somebody saw me go in, run. Yeah. I don't know if somebody saw me go in, somebody saw me do anything. So I just got to stop and tell them. And so I stop, and luckily they laughed at me. They thought it was pretty funny.
Right.
So I get there, I tell them, I said, hey, I'm sorry. I was in your house. And they're like, what? And they're like, I was trying to show this house. The pen showed your house. So I went in, and I walked through your house real quick. I just walked right through, and luckily they kind of laughed about it, and they were fine with it. But for a minute there, I thought, I'm going to jail. I am going to jail. I just broke into this house. Or what if they had a gun or something like that? But So don't think that, like I just walked in, didn't even think about double checking the pen, double checking anything. I just walked in. Oh, this is it. Walked right in. And I thought, okay, that's when I realized, okay, double check. You don't know everything. You're not going to know everything going forward. Take a second to just double check before you proceed on anything, right? Not just showing a home, but for a second there, I didn't know what was going to happen.
There was a home I walked through, and there was a builder. He had 5 homes.
Yeah.
And they're new construction, and they were nice. A couple of them were finished and just barely finished. And we walked through it, and we're looking, comparing, and they really like this home. And I'm like, awesome. So we write it up, and they counter back and whatever. Well, I actually made the offer on the wrong home. The home that they thought they were getting. And we go back.
Was it for sale too then?
Yeah. And we go back to walk through, and they got a really good price on a home that was smaller. And so they thought they were getting a really good price on a home that was bigger, but they actually paid a lot more for a home that was smaller, right? Oh, no. And it wasn't marked or anything. I called the builder and talked to them, and they were super awesome. And we made it right and worked it out, so everybody felt great. And they all laughed at me, but I mean, it's one of those things that, you just have to know, Yeah. If I would have just simply said, this is the home with the great room, right?
Yeah.
All of them look the same. This is the home that, has the white countertops, like whatever it may be, it would have been.
Could have been saved yourself some time.
I thought I was done for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that is just knowing that double checking, and I think you just get that with experience.
Right.
And so the more you have, then you're double checking things, making sure the legal's right, making sure you're writing the offer on the right home, especially if there's homes for sale that are adjacent to each other. But also, I think knowing your contracts helps. Helps a ton. I mean, we had one, this was a little while ago, this was probably 7 months ago maybe, where there was a client who, so buyers, when you put an offer in on a home in Idaho, you have an inspection period or due diligence period. They call it different in every state, right?
Right.
So in that period, if they find something, if it's on a basic contract and they haven't said anything different, then typically they'll get their earnest money back. So this one didn't have a ton of earnest money. I think it was like $3,000, $3,000 or $4,000, their earnest money. And they went through, and they were kind of right at the very tail end. We kind of went back and forth a little bit. It couldn't come together. The buyers ended up saying, hey, we're terminating. So I went to my sellers and I just said, okay, here's where it's at. Of course, termination, typically they are within that period. So the earnest money in this case would normally go back to the buyer.
Right.
And they said, well, let's just ask for it. Is there anything wrong with us asking for it? I said, no, but just know that we're probably not going to get it because of the way the contract's written.
And you're open?
And they said, yeah. And I said, okay. And they said, yeah, we just want to, why not ask for it? They drug us out for 2.5 weeks. We feel that there's some compensation that could be for that. And so let's just ask for it. I said, all right. And they said, how would you do that? And I said, okay, well, there is this termination thing that if they sign it and we sign it and we both agree where earnest money is going to go, we're good. And so I said, this is how we'd ask for it. They said, okay, don't say anything to them about it, but just ask for it and see. And, I was kind of prepping them, hey, agents, they're going to know better than this. They're just going to push back and just say, no, this should go to the buyer. And they said, well, if they do that, then great. We'll sign it and we'll release it to the buyer. I said, okay. So we asked for it. We sent it up, said, okay, all earnest money to be released to the seller. It is being terminated, but they're giving up their earnest money, blah, blah, blah. And sent it over to the agent, said, hey, my seller wants to ask for their earnest money. And within an hour, so there couldn't have been many conversations. Within an hour, they had sent it to their buyer and sent it back to us, signed. So that buyer, because that agent didn't know contracts, didn't know exactly what they were doing, they cost them that earnest money, that $3,000 or $4,000. And that buyer probably doesn't even know that they should have gotten it back. And so it's just so important to know somebody that has the experience, or a team or whatever that has the experience. It's okay if you use a new person as long as they have somebody that's really backing them up, right?
Because it can cost you money on the front.
Oh, it
not
can cost
just
you a
on
lot
the
of
back
money.
end.
Yeah, I mean, if that client knew that it cost them that money, it's not a good situation, right? And so, and it's not anything that we did, and it wasn't my client. We are there to serve our clients, right? And part of that is keeping that confidentiality. And confidentiality is if they ask for something, we're there to help them.
Our client,
we're here to help them and try to enable that. But knowing that in this case, I didn't think there was any way that this was going to happen. So I prepped them for that, and they knew that. They're like, let's just ask anyway and just see. And then they got it. And so, title company gave them a check 2 days later. And so it's kind of interesting how that happens. And so that's pretty a minor, $2,000 or $3,000. Yes, it's a lot of money, but it's not the end of the world.
Right.
But at the same time, it can be bigger things, and we have seen it on bigger things.
Sure.
And so I think knowing your contracts, and sometimes agents get mad and then they might bad talk the other agent, but it's just because they didn't know the contract. It's not because their other agent's doing anything necessarily shady. It's just that sometimes they need to know their contracts.
For sure.
If that was an agent that knew it, they would have just called me and been like, don't you have this wrong? This should be going to my client. And, and that would have been the end of it. But we represent our clients, and we're supposed to do, and we need to do what they're doing, knowing we're within the law and we're within that. And there was no harm in asking. And so anyway, so that's just one example of knowing your contracts. Luckily, I was on the other side of that. I wasn't on the bad side of that. But there's been times when I think early on, when I think about it, I was like, man, I really need to know this.
Right.
Usually it's when just people ask you something, right? And you're like, I don't know. Let me go dive into the contract and see. But so I think knowing that contract like the back of your hand can just really help serve you and your clients better.
Well, we could go on, and I think that we should do this more often because there's a lot of good stuff that we can have. But we'll kind of keep this one a little shorter and sweet so everybody can get through it and not fall asleep while they're driving. But again, thank you guys for watching, and please subscribe and share with your friends, and really thank you for your support and all of your referrals. So anyway, we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah.